In the first season of the HBO show Westworld, this symbol of the maze appeared in lots of places, and when some of the characters went in search for the maze and its meaning, they were told, the maze is not meant for you. Well, it turns out the maze was meant for the android characters, and no spoilers, it was meant to help them. I won't say anything much more about that. Likewise, when I see apologetics about atheists, I think, this apologetic is not meant for you. It's a maze meant for the Christians to stay trapped in their belief. So recently I was thinking about doing a video on this little piece of apologetic that atheists are angry, and why are atheists so angry all the time? And so I started doing a little reading, and I came across this particular article. Many atheists know God exists, they're just angry that we depend on him. As you're going to see, this piece has everything you would expect from a headline like this. But to me, it's also a demonstration that Christians just want to talk among themselves. They're not really interested in getting to know atheists and what we think. Oh, and the keywords are atheism, presumption, and despair. Worst game of which of these words doesn't belong ever. Let's see what we have today. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and skeptic, and today I want to talk about why we atheists are all so angry and why we hate God, specifically based on this piece that was in the National Catholic Register. It was written by this person named Angelo Stagnaro, or maybe he says his name is Stagnaro. These Italian Americans don't always pronounce it the Italian way, but anyway. And it was on October 19th, 2022. It's one of the blogs, so this is, random person can post kind of thing. And it begins with this nice quote from Deuteronomy that we're not going to read. I was kind of curious, who is this Angelo Stagnaro? I'm going to say it the Italian way, so, if he doesn't say it that way, my apologies. This is our dude, and by the way, stay tuned to the end to find out some other interesting things about our friend Angelo here. But one of the things that came up in my search were other things that he'd written recently, like this one. When you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites. Okay, great. Or this one, I met a Jehovah's Witness on a bus. Here's what I told her. What he basically told her was she was wrong and wasn't reading the Bible correctly. Spoilers there. You can go look at it if you want, knock yourself out, but it just goes to show that he already has the truth. And one that I think must be ironic, St. Francis of Assisi teaches a lesson in humility. Just let me know in the comments below when you've watched this video if you think that Angelo actually learned anything about humility. All right, enough of this blibbity blab. Let's go see what Angelo has for us. Before we get into Angelo's thoughts on atheism, I do want to take a moment to appreciate the photo that was chosen to accompany the piece, which is this picture of a statue of Lenin and a church, looks like, Russian Orthodox, and it's titled Atheism and Religion. So I guess Lenin is the stand-in for atheists, or maybe because communism, maybe we're just trying to evoke communism with atheism. I just think this says a lot about where Angelo is coming from, and let's keep in mind that although they're related, Russian Orthodoxy and Catholicism did split a while back, so the beliefs aren't all the same, and so on and so forth. All right, but we're not here to talk about Russian Orthodoxy. We are here to talk about atheists and how we all hate God, so let's see what Angelo says. He starts out, over the years, I've spoken to many hundreds of atheists, and among them, I've yet to meet one who didn't believe in God. Instead, these people express hatred for God. So my first question is, do we buy this, that he's spoken to many hundreds of atheists? Does he know they were atheists? Was he out evangelizing? How did he speak to these atheists? And then even assuming that that's true, how does he know better than them what they believe and that they actually hated God? I just feel like this is a bit of an exaggeration. But let's go on. Let's see what he's got for us. I don't know. Could be wrong. Maybe, give Angelo a little break here. He says, when I show atheists the numbers involved in, let's say, the fine-tuning argument or the Hashem equation or the ontological argument or any other excellent arguments for God's existence, the atheist in my sights will inevitably, like night follows the day, respond pettily. Then why is God killing small children with leukemia? All right, so lot to unpack in this little paragraph here. So He's apparently very impressed with these arguments. I don't know the Hashem equation. I looked at the link and it's behind a paywall. All I know, it has something to do with connecting religion with science. That's all I'm going to say. I think the ontological argument is terrible. You can see lots of debunks of the ontological argument. The fine-tuning argument is one of those things I've never found very impressive, because if you have an all-powerful God, then he could create the universe however he feels like and creatures however he feels, and I don't know that it matters what the universe is quote-unquote finely tuned for. I mean, he can do anything with the universe. I would find it more impressive if we said, oh, as a species, isn't it amazing we're here because nothing really is in our favor. And by the way, you can follow that particular link and find a defense of the fine-tuning argument, but the guy actually dismisses things that you could counter. Like, there's actually a statement, yeah, people point out that we couldn't exist in most of the universe, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, you're only talking about the things you want to talk about. So even that article that's linked here, it's not that great. And there's somebody in the comments, like you could go comment on that article, that's arguing with the person. But anyway, Angelo is impressed with these. I'm not impressed with these arguments, and they're not evidence, they're arguments. But apparently when he's talking to an atheist, they will switch the conversation and they will say something petty, and this isn't loaded language at all, right? Talk about why God is doing bad things here. Now, obviously, we're not witnessing a real conversation. We are witnessing a recollection of a collection of conversations that Angelo may or may not have had with people, and who knows how he took those in. I am pretty sure that this is misrepresented, but let's assume that something like this happened. If an atheist saw, well, here's another Christian that's convinced by some argument, that's not going to work to attack the argument because this person is convinced. You start to talk about, like, this particular version of God you believe in. You technically believe in an all-good God. Then why is this all-good God doing these bad things on earth? This isn't accepting that God is real, by the way. This is trying to put the believer face to face with the contradictions in the God they're believing in. And I think this has to be stated very clearly. To entertain a hypothetical about a God that somebody is presenting to you is not to accept the God. You can be an atheist and hypothetically imagine all kinds of things. When people come to you with a God, you can accept, just for the basis of argument, this God and look for things like, should I believe or should I not? Are there contradictions? That's what I think is going on here. But let's go see where Angelo goes with this. In Peter Schaeffer's Amadeus, the conniving, embittered, and resentful Salieri conspires against his much more talented rival, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and God. His envy even leads him to burn a crucifix, cursing God, saying, quote, I'm not going to read the quote, but let's just go with, this is a piece of fiction. This is a piece of writing, and you might think it's representative of something. It's just a piece of writing, and it has nothing to do with the conversations you were just having. But this is the next part he puts in here. So this tells us something about Angelo's mind, I think, and where it goes in all directions. This isn't really a follow-up to the atheists he's talked to. This is just, hey, random atheist writing, piece of fiction, whatever. Let's go see where he goes next. Mesotheism is the hatred of God, rage at God's permitting or perpetrating suffering and injustice. The word is derived from the Greek mesotheos, it's got it in Greek here, hating God. It was first recorded in Aeschylus's Agamemnon, which was first performed in 458 BC. Well, I don't know, this paragraph I think is just here so that we know Angelo is smart. Look, he can type in some Greek, and he knows about Aeschylus, and when it was written, he can Wikipedia pretty well. But yeah, okay, mesotheism is hatred of God. Got it. Let's move on. This has nothing to do with the conversations you were having with atheists a minute ago. This paragraph is a listing of other mesotheists. We're not going to read all of them, but in the middle, he does say that astronomer Freeman J. Dyson described God as his enemy. Camus demanded a concerted metaphysical rebellion against God. Bernard Schweitzer admitted that his mesotheism was his, quote, religious dissent against God. And I'm not sure what these people said, and I'm not going to look them up because I got enough for this video. I have read Camus, and he was not just like a mesotheist. What he saw, though, was the harm that religion perpetrated. He was an atheist. He didn't believe in God. But he was using God as a symbol. So to think that, oh, he really believed in God is ridiculous. These other people, you in the comments, you might be able to tell me something about them because I don't know. Let's go on to this other mesotheist filigaster, Thomas Nagel, in his 1997 Potboiler. Yeah, again, not loaded language. The last word, who said the quiet part out loud. I think that means out loud. I do my share of typos on this channel, so I really shouldn't make fun of people for typos, because I do typos all the time, but I like that. He said the quiet part out loud. I want atheism to be true, and am made uneasy by the fact that some of the most intelligent and well-informed people I know are religious believers. It isn't just that I don't believe in God, and naturally I hope that I'm right in my belief. It's that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that. It's funny to me that you say that he says the quiet part out loud. What I'm reading in here is that this is a person that thinks, wow, there are some intelligent people that believe in God, and that makes me wonder about my own beliefs. But if there is a God, then that means certain things about the universe, and I don't like for the universe to take that shape. Again, I don't know who this person is or what he actually believed, but what I'm seeing here is somebody that's being honest, and look, thinks that believers are intelligent and well-informed, but that God belief does something bad, that it creates something bad. You know, I guess this would be disturbing to hear if you're a believer, but I'm not disturbed by this quote, and I'm not sure why to say the quiet part out loud. You know, he doesn't speak for all atheists. This may be something that is confusing to Christians, but atheists can believe all kinds of stuff. They just don't believe in a God. So you're going to find just a wide range of beliefs among atheists on all topics. There's no authority imposing what you're supposed to believe that you're supposed to adhere to. And, you know, that is true of Christians too. So we're listening to a Catholic right now, but there's a wide range of Christian beliefs too. They listen to some authorities, but they reject other Christian authorities. So anyway, Nagel is not speaking for atheists or atheism. This is one person's belief, and I don't know, it sounds kind of interesting. I don't know that I would mind reading this. That might be something to put on my Kindle at some point. Let's go see where Angelo goes from here. My belief in God doesn't affect the reality of his existence, and neither does the most fervent and fevered opinion of some random atheist. There's more narcissism than reason to his self-profession. Okay, again, very loaded language here. I do agree that whether or not a human believes or doesn't believe in something has no impact on the existence or non-existence thereof. But this, this characterization of fervent and fevered and then random atheist, you know, you could try to be a little bit more understanding of the position and not so scathingly disparaging. But hey, you know, apparently this isn't about understanding atheists. This is about being disparaging. And then we throw out narcissism. I don't know where the narcissism came in here. Nagel was not talking about anything to do with being self-centered or anything. It was more of preferring the universe to flow from certain rules and physical laws, I guess, than from the authority of a deity. But yeah, let's also throw in some pathology in here too. Let's go see where we go from here. And lest we forget, Lucifer's rejection of God was the result of his hatred for him and not merely a desire for autonomy. He was intimately familiar with the love that moves the sun and the other stars and rejected it. Lucifer hated love. There is nothing different in what Nagel asserts. He's not arguing from a logical nor scientific perspective. He's merely voicing his feelings. If wishes were fishes, we'd all have a nice lunch. I like chocolate ice cream over any other flavor, but no matter what I think, say, or do, pistachio ice cream will not cease to exist, unfortunately. Okay, so all of this is just made up. This stuff about Lucifer, really, Lucifer is not biblically based. It's the interpretation of a few verses of the Bible that don't appear to be about Lucifer, but about like the king of Babylon and stuff. So you can just make up anything you want. This is just a part of the lore of Christianity, Catholicism, and everything. I think it's here to poison the well, to associate atheists with Lucifer, with the king of evil, and so on. But, you know, there's no basis actually in the religion for Lucifer, so it's just a straw person that you can put up, a straw figure, to, you know, compare anything to it. It is true that the quote we read about Nagel was really just about his feelings and not anything logical or scientific. Since I don't know the book, I don't know if there was something else in that Nagel book that might have been more of a scientific or logical demonstration. But, you know, expressing your feelings about something is perfectly legitimate, and I don't know why you would diminish that. I did not read that quote by Nagel as being some reason for not believing. It really seemed to be about sorting out his feelings about the fact that there are believers and he doesn't believe and he doesn't want to believe. But I don't see a problem with that. I mean, we can write about our feelings. We don't have to always be so scientific and rational. Some things do come from feeling. that is separate from all the reasons why we would be atheists and why we reject religion. But the two things can exist at the same time. So my thought is Angelo has just picked out some things that he wants to disparage and make it seem like, oh, look at this irrational atheist writing about his feelings. Ooh. As humans, we do have feelings about things, and it is good to sort out those feelings. Again, you want to keep them separate from the reasons why you believe or don't believe, or that support certain positions or support certain theories. But, you could still have feelings about stuff. All right, let's see where we go for Angelo here. Atheists often repeat the hackneyed screed. Gosh, this loaded language. Okay. Even if a God, as described in the Bible, does exist, he is not fit for worship due to his low moral standards. This is a bad faith argument. I don't know why that's a bad faith argument. Arguing in bad faith is usually about being disingenuous. How is this being disingenuous? Let's see what he says. Why would anyone trust an atheist who labels God, the church, or Christians in general as evil while simultaneously insisting that evil doesn't exist? Logicians call this jibber-jabber. I actually see two things with this. So a lot of times Christians think of evil as a force in the world, like it is the devil incarnate and demons. So they see evil as a thing that exists, kind of like energy exists or light exists. I see evil as an adjective, and I can apply it to actions that I think meet a certain threshold for harm, suffering, and atrocity. For a long time, I hated referring to anything as evil because I hated this religious connection to it, this thought that this was a force that was taking over people, as if they weren't responsible for their own actions. I do want humans to be responsible for their own actions. But I've accepted that, again, when actions reach a certain threshold for harm and suffering, we can apply evil. But I wouldn't say that there's something objective. There's not something that is outside of ourselves that's determining this. This is a very subjective thing. So I think that Angelo just misunderstands what is being talked about here. Let's keep going with this discussion. Why would anyone trust an atheist who says he and other atheists are the most compassionate and non-judgmental people in the world while simultaneously refusing to help anyone while judging anyone who disagrees with them? Oh, come on, break up the sentence a little bit more. But do atheists say this? First of all, I don't know that atheists say that they are the most compassionate, non-judgmental people in the world. I don't know that atheists are refusing to help and they're just always judging people. I will say that humans are judging people all the time. And by the way, Angelo is judging atheists in this whole piece and disparaging atheists. So I don't know. Humans judge humans. This is not like an atheist or Christian thing. But I actually think that this sentence exists just so he can feel superior. Like, don't atheists have a big opinion of themselves, and they shouldn't? All right, let's see how he finishes out this paragraph. I pray for atheists, as do many Catholics. If someone slips on an icy street, I don't ask them if they are Catholic before assisting them. However, atheists routinely and actively attack Catholics, though they are circumspect when it comes to Muslims. Once again, there's so much packed into this little statement. So what we see is Angelo is a good person. You see this? He prays for atheists. And if somebody slips, he helps them. He doesn't ask about their religion, which, I mean, who would do that? I guess the implication is that, well, obviously atheists don't pray, but they wouldn't help you if you slipped on an icy street. But this routinely and actively attacking Catholics, notice not all Christians, just Catholics. We're just going back and forth between Christians and Catholics, so that's fine, whatever. But it makes it sound like it's physical, like he's helping, like physically helping people who slip, and atheists running around the street hitting people. But what he maybe means is like people on social media or in YouTube videos, and by attack, maybe they're just expressing why they don't believe in something, but they're not like attacking Catholics. This makes it sound like it's personal, like we're attacking specific people just because they are who they are and not the religion. And apparently he hasn't spent a lot of time on YouTube because there are lots of videos that are anti-Muslim as well. You know, I think one of the issues that comes up is that often attacking the religion, Islam, can be just a screen for attacking Muslims for being anti-Muslim and bigoted, basically. But the other thing I'll say is that the Muslims are a very small minority religion here, and they're not trying to change the laws to adapt to them at all, like a lot of Christians are doing. And the Catholics and evangelicals right now have a coalition to try to bring prayer into school and do a whole lot of other things to basically change American life to insert more religion. Muslims aren't doing that. So if we're attacking Christians, Catholics included, it's because you're doing something in society. And it's interesting to me that religious people don't see this. It is when you are trying to affect society in a way that impacts me, I might have a say about that. But if you're just existing and doing your thing, it's like, yeah, you be you. That's fine. And just to close out this section, by the way, the conservative press already attacks Islam and Muslims and scaremongers around them. So it's like, I don't know why I should add to that. But anyway, my main thing is that Christians in this country are trying to change laws and trying to change the way things are done, and Muslims aren't. All right, let's go back to Angelo and see where he goes from here. I don't doubt there are tactless, self-satisfied Christians who start fights with atheists hoping to compel them into believing in God, but I've only met a tiny handful of atheists who weren't aching for a fight. It's as if they were highly insecure about their own opinions and felt compelled to force others to agree with them. Well, I'm glad that you're admitting that there are Christians out in the world doing all kinds of things, preaching from the pulpit, standing on street corners, standing on college campuses, yelling at college students, running around telling everybody they're going to hell. I mean, that is just all over the place. Now, I don't know about this handful of atheists who are aching for a fight, but I'll tell you what, if Angelo came up to me and started talking to me in a way that's reflected in this article, I might get a little angry because he's already formed an opinion. He's not interested in getting to know me. He's interested in critiquing me for being an atheist. And I don't know if some of this is projection, like you're highly insecure about your own opinions, feel compelled to force others to agree with them. To me, that's Christianity. Christianity is trying to force others to agree with them. What I'm trying to do is just live my life. I've told my story before about how I only actually started calling myself an atheist when I started to see that Christians were denying atheists things in the public square. It is Christians that are doing that. But anyway, Angelo, I think, does not have a good opinion of atheists, and he doesn't understand atheists, and he won't understand atheists. Let's keep going. The history of atheism is littered with the tiresome detritus of uninformed atheists whose last resort when arguing against Catholics, but oddly never Muslims, is screaming, God is evil. But this is yet another of their insincere and confused opinions. Oh my gosh. Like this is more or less a repetition of stuff. It's, again, poisoning the well, using very loaded language, and not understanding what the argument is. You're trying to portray a good God that wants a relationship with us and yet does all this bad stuff. I think that you're just missing the point of the argument. Let's keep going. If God is bad by any measure, an atheist would never be able to recognize the idea because atheists don't believe in an objective moral reality or even the concepts of good and evil. How would they know God was evil? Okay, we've dealt with this already. Again, this is a bit of a repetition. And again, you don't need an objective moral reality at all. I don't believe in an objective moral reality. I believe that we as humans can get together and decide what our goals are around morality and what our values are, and then how can we enact this. I think we can come up with definitions around concepts of good and evil. We don't need this imposed. I know that people would like there to be like this nice, firm, chalk line snapped on the ground kind of way of defining these things, but we do have legal concepts around a lot of these, and it's not perfect, but nothing that we do as humans is. But anyway, we can decide these things. We can come up with what we mean. We can define them. We can talk. Does not have to be objective. Going on. If they can't define or accept the concept of good and evil, what's make them think... Okay, again, more typos. What's make them think they know anything about God's supposed evil? They can't have it both ways, and I'm delighted to point it out to them. See, he's delighted because he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand how humans can agree on what concepts mean and come up with definitions. You know, I don't know if he's ever spent time, for example, on a jury. When I was on a jury, we were instructed on the law, and there were things, criteria that we would use to evaluate what we were doing. It wasn't just arbitrary. And this is what I see with a lot of the way we do things as humans. We come up with criteria and we see how people are meeting those criteria. So atheists can come up with what things are good and what things are bad or even evil. These are descriptors. They aren't things that are out there. And you don't have to have an objective moral reality. You just have to decide that you can come together and make determinations about these things. That's it. It's not that hard. Let's see where Angelo goes from here. As Thomas Paine rightly points out, to argue with the man who has renounced the use and authority of reason and whose philosophy consists in holding humanity in contempt is like administering medicine to the dead. Atheists are mesotheists, and mesotheists are angry. They can't see the facts, they can't see logic. They're angry if their cherished belief in their own perfection is challenged. All right, pack it in, people. Angelo is on to us. He recognizes that we're just angry. We hate God. We don't have any facts or logic. And we just want to worship ourselves. I mean, I'm assuming that is what is intended here. So far in this article, what I see is that Angelo does not understand atheists. That's it. He doesn't have any interest in understanding atheists. I don't know, this straw atheist that he has decided to make up and then, put some philosophers around, to prop up. That doesn't exist. That's not the atheist that I see. And what I see is the use, or I guess the misuse really, of somebody challenging you on the problem of evil to talk about your conception of God, interpreting that as not having logic and reason. Now, I haven't seen any demonstration of holding humanity in contempt, so I don't know where this Thomas Paine quote came from or why. Again, just maybe poisoning the well kind of thing here. And then, of course, we have the usual, the Catholic, Christian, whoever, knows atheists better than they know themselves. So they say they're atheists, but they're not. They actually believe in God and hate God, and they don't have facts, and they don't have logic. And by the way, I don't know where this whole notion of atheists believing in their own perfection came from. Like, where was that in this article? I have not seen that. Even that Nagel quote was not about human perfection or our own personal perfection. I personally don't believe that humans are perfect. For me, what I see is that there's no demonstration that a God exists. It's just us down here trying to sort things out, and we aren't perfect, but we're the best we've got. So we should use whatever we have. That's it. And just to finish up on this section here, this notion that people get angry if you challenge a cherished belief. Well, there are ways to challenge beliefs that do make other people angry, and maybe rightly so if you are so denigrating and so smug about your own beliefs. Now, I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea how these conversations went with Angelo, but given the tone of this article, I can't imagine that they were anything like trying to understand another person or trying to see things from a different point of view. And just a reminder, one of those other articles was why Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong about their reading of the Bible. So you see, this is a person that already has the truth. Anyway, let's finish up what Angelo has to say. Psychologist Stephen Vail has conducted a great deal of research into narcissism. The more extreme values they hold, the stronger their diagnosis. The basic nature of the narcissist is one of contempt for the rest of humanity. Regardless of the meager accomplishments of any particular narcissist, God still stands in his or her way as the ultimate authority and standard by which all are judged. God is the hope of salvation for believers and the stumbling block for the self-blind who think themselves wise and quote-unquote good. Oh my, I just like how we went to this pathology here at the end of narcissism. There is a diagnosis called narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. There are criteria for it. It's not just, oh, here's somebody that worships themselves or whatever, or holds the rest of humanity in contempt. There are actual criteria that psychologists would use to diagnose somebody with NPD. But this like non sequitur kind of thing, just to associate narcissists with atheists and to make it seem like, ooh, they're also psychologically unbalanced. And the reason that they hate God actually is that they want to worship themselves. I think that's what we're getting at here. If we can kind of summarize this mess of a piece that Angelo has put together where the thoughts are going in every direction and the language is so loaded, what we have is, so Angelo claims to have talked to hundreds of atheists, and when he has put forth these awesome arguments, they haven't accepted those, and instead they throw in his face that God is evil. And he thinks that that means that they must actually believe in God and hate God, but they don't have a good moral foundation for what evil is because they're atheists, and so there's no objective evil. But also atheists are narcissistic because they think that they are perfect and they don't like that perfection challenged. I'm probably missing a couple of points, but I think that's it. But to me, Angelo has just missed what atheists have been telling him, and he thinks he knows better. So there's that. And by the way, all that critique of Nagel just talking about his feelings, I feel like this was just Angelo's feelings. Like, this is how I feel about atheists. So anyway, you might be wondering, who is this Angelo Stagnaro anyway? So let's look at his description, which is below. Angelo Stagnaro, Erasmus, performs as a stage magician and mentalist. Yeah, his stage name is Erasmus, because that's not pretentious at all. He's also the guild master of the Catholic Magicians Guild and a professed member of the secular Franciscans. Like, I don't even know what that is. And then it says he's written 6 books on mentalism and cold reading. So cool. And my personal favorite, his most recent book was released through Tao Publishing as entitled A Lenten Cookbook for Catholics. Like, what a time to be alive. Like, this mentalist magician guy who writes about how you should eat during Lent is bashing atheists on a Catholic site. It's like, chef's kiss, you know? So I was kind of curious about Angelo, and I was kind of looking at some stuff about him, like, who is this dude? And I found him on a pickup artist site. I'm not going to talk about that so much. It was partly in German. I found this interview that I thought was really interesting on the Catholic Herald. I'm not psychic, but I'm good at fooling you. An interview with magician Angelo Stagnaro, and this is from September of 2020. And I don't know if it's true or not, but it describes him as a really good magician and mentalist, but these were a couple quotes I found interesting. Besides working as a magician, Stagnaro is also a master of mentalism, a craft of discerning barely perceptible truths about a person from the tiniest of clues. And I'm just left thinking, but he doesn't understand atheists. He says he's met all of these atheists, and he did not understand them at all. Like, he did not get the most barest of perceptible truths. He did not show the least interest in atheists as human beings. But my favorite in this interview is the following quote. Stagnaro whispers behind his hand that, quote, "There is no such thing as magic." Dude, you're a Catholic. You believe that the bread and wine are literally transformed into the body and blood of a prophet that lived about 2,000 years ago. You believe in a book that has a talking donkey, a talking snake, a dude that walks on water and who changed water into wine. And in another book where there was a dude that threw down a stick and it turned into a snake. You believe in magic, or you're not Catholic. Okay, so that's just my thought. Do you have any thoughts on Angelo, on the article I read, on the fact that he's a mentalist and a magician who says there's no such thing as magic? Put it in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. I love it when you do the YouTube stuff. You're on YouTube. You know what to do. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. That link is also in the description below. Thank you to everybody who's bought me a coffee. I will see you in the next one, whatever that turns out to be. Have a great day, evening, or whatever time it is. Bye for now.